Today, we are going to talk Daredevil, the third season, but not the whole season, only through episode 8. So if you have all your spoilers on episodes 9 through 13, shh, don't ruin it for everybody else. Speaking of ruining things for everybody else, we're also going to talk about The Gifted. I told you once, son of a bitch! Marvel TV Weekly starts now!
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
And now it makes sense.
Yes.
Welcome! The Marvel TV Weekly did indeed go down to Georgia. I am Christian Bladt. I love being able to pick Devil songs.
Yeah.
And, both Z and I are on the Daredevil after show, and we're not really in the position where we get to pick the songs. It's always the Daredevil theme, and I'm always like, well, I want to save them for Marvel TV Weekly,
That's
but
right. Perfect.
I actually was sitting there when we were doing it just a couple hours ago, and I was like, oh, Devil went down to Georgia. So I was just so excited. But anyway, as I said, I am Christian Blatt, and joined, as always, by Xia Anderson.
Hey everybody, Xia Anderson here.
Yeah.
Anderson.
Way back on the other side of the desk, the one, the only, Amy Cassandra, fan favorite Amy Cassandra. When you're not here, people are like, where's Amy?
And then they leave the chat. And they stop watching.
Definitely
and
happens.
they stop
do not.
watching.
Yeah,
No.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, but hey guys, I am
By the
in
way,
the chat
walk
right
out the door right now and you'll see
Okay.
the chat. We'll just go to
Everybody
sleep.
just leaves.
Anyway,
Yeah,
but
okay, see you
speaking of the chat,
Yes, speaking of the chat, I am there right now. So join us there. If you're not there right now, do it there right now. Right now.
we are, as I said in the teaser, other than yelling because I wanted to get that line from the song in, we are going to talk a lot about Daredevil. I do want to talk a little bit about The Gifted because we didn't talk about it last week, and I don't remember you ladies talking about it, the show I wasn't here for.
We did.
Episode 4, right?
Yeah, well, there are 4
Yeah.
episodes now, so there have been a couple since then, or at least one. Anyway, so we're going to kind of talk about it more in general terms. We'll talk about things that happen in those episodes, but I kind of want to start there because both of you are new to this show,
Yeah.
The Gifted, this season.
Yeah.
And I would like you to trace your enjoyment arc from episode 1 of season 2. On Amy is getting a drink so that she can get ready to say a lot. So, Amy, I would like to let you go first.
Well, okay, the first episode of the second season, I was like, okay, what is this? Let's do this. And it was pretty good. I love that Amy Acker is in it. But somehow along the way, I don't know if it was the second or the third, I was kind of like, what's going on? What's going on? I don't feel as interested. And then I was just kind of like, this last episode, episode 4, I was like, what is going on? And I am choosing to look at the positives, which are Amy Acker and cool stuff that sometimes happens on the show regarding powers.
Yes, you're getting to see some powers,
Yes.
which that was a huge problem with season 1.
Yeah.
And anyone who's familiar with this show, Marvel TV Weekly, you know that we were very critical on this show about just how much we just flat out disliked The Gifted. And I wanted to like it because it's the X-Men universe. I love those characters.
Yes.
And one of the things that made me most angry is how much I liked the character of Polaris. And she is a lot better in this season, believe it or not. And she ended really strong in season 1. But the way that they had her early on in the series was so infuriating that, believe it or not, I'm actually happier with her now. Xia, so as you have gone through 4 episodes of The Gifted, what are your thoughts?
So going into it, obviously I didn't watch the first season. Everybody told me not to.
Still don't, by the way.
Good, and I
keep not watching the first season.
Good, and I saw the first previews of the first season. I was
That's all
like,
you
you know
need.
what, I'm going
Yeah.
to stay away from
You're
this.
good.
So going into it, the first episode, again, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I feel like I'm not going to hate this. I can watch this. It might not be my biggest cup of tea, but it's, it's not terrible. This is cool. We're seeing some powers again. They're
I mean, look, it's a cup of tea that was made in the microwave, and somebody had made coffee in it before that, and it's not really
honey.
heated. Yeah, no,
There's no lemon.
There is nothing in it. There was no sugar. It tastes like the
bitter.
wooden stick that you stirred it with, but it's still tea.
But it's still tea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much how I feel about it. And then, episode 2, I was like, oh, okay. Episode 3 and episode 4 really start to feel, to me, like I'm watching like a soap opera drama.
Yeah.
And that's where they really start to lose me. I'm like, and also the Morlocks. I was so excited to see the Morlocks.
Absolutely. I was so excited.
And they're just... first of all, I didn't see enough of them. Maybe we'll get to see more of them, I'm hoping.
I'm suspecting we will,
Second of all, they were just glammed up Morlocks, which I had a feeling they were going to do, but I was still disappointed and hoping for a little bit more.
Yeah, it was like the Morlocks were also moonlighting as a touring company from Cats.
Right.
Like they were just... Yeah.
No,
Exactly.
You had that look on your face. I'm like, look, I know you like cats,
I do.
as in the animals, but
Yes.
that's really what I felt.
Yeah.
In any case, it's just week in, week out, it just continues to be disappointing just because the potential is so high for this show. And I am continuing to watch, because we're on this show, but also just because I've seen flashes of... I was going to say brilliance, but let's be honest. I've seen good flashes. I've seen moments where I'm
What it
like,
could be.
there have been encouraging signs, so I really want things... Look, Reed developing powers has made that character more interesting. Like, I still not my favorite character, but I'm like, okay, this is really interesting now. I want to see this dynamic. Yeah, Amy Acker is going to be the only person on the show without powers. Well, along with Agent Jace, who I didn't miss. You guys didn't even know him from last season, but he wasn't in the first couple episodes, and I don't welcome having him back. I just felt like,
His storyline doesn't make any... It's not compelling.
Yeah,
I don't care too much about his character.
Didn't care that his wife left him. I don't. Yeah. And he's going to hang out with these purifiers, which is sort of an interesting storyline from season 1. Let's see what they do with it, though. Amy, I would like you to peruse the chat.
Yeah.
And if people are freaking out, like, how dare you besmirch the good name of the gifted?
Well, okay, so Ghost8386 says, I like the first season of The Gifted, and Kristen Jackson says, I still haven't seen any. That's a winter break binge thing.
I mean, honestly,
so-
go skiing. I mean, if it's winter break, you know what I mean? Just something else. But cool, if that's what you want
Watch
to do.
the Chilling Adventures of
Yeah, Amy will tell you that you should just rewatch all 8 Harry Potter movies instead.
Yeah.
If you're gonna do a
and then
binge.
read the books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ooh, watch the movie, read the book. Okay, no, read the book, watch the movie, read the book, watch the movie, read
Wow.
the book, watch the movie.
See?
You have your whole break.
Yeah, so you
plan.
can just go ahead and avoid that. But tell us in the chat if we're being tell us why we're being too hard. Don't just tell us why we're stupid.
Kristen Jackson says
I'm stupid.
Well, maybe not then.
Oh, so maybe not. Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah. Anyway, there's like I said, there's moments, there's things that are cool to see. I have a little bit of an attachment to some of the interactions. I still like Thunderbird because I think he's a good character. I think Blink is cool. And then Marco, who on the official Gifted After show they call Flashlight, it's all right, but he and Polaris and the baby, and I was just like,
I'm done with them as characters right now.
All
I'm
of them.
sorry. Yes, all of them. I'm
Just
like,
the
you
baby.
guys-
Let's just have the baby
Let's just
back.
take the baby back. Yeah.
And we didn't really see the baby in this last episode
Yeah.
either. I was like, come on, guys.
They
That's
just
what I wanted.
fix the baby.
it's very
and then-
expensive to have
Yeah.
a
That was
baby on a
it.
television show.
Is
You
it?
only can have like 2 minutes or so. It's very little time you can film a baby on a set.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We should
So-
have multiple
know-
babies then.
That's why you have
for
the
one.
Olsen twins, for example, is because So anyway,
Wow.
but so we will continue to do our homework, and it feels like homework.
It does.
Like having the week off from the Gifted, I was just like, thank you, World Series for. But it was always returning after the World Series, which means it will be back on Tuesday, and that's why we got ourselves caught up to speed on it.
There is one thing that I just want to mention.
Yes,
that
please.
There's one thing that I mentioned that I did really like. Then the mutants were wearing the collars.
Yes.
When they were released was just like from the 90s X-Men cartoon. And that made me really happy.
Absolutely. Anything that goes back to
Yeah.
the 90s X-Men cartoon always makes us happy here. on Marvel TV Weekly. We will transition to Daredevil in a moment, but first, this important message from Xia Anderson.
Yes, AfterBuzzers. Our network produces after shows for nearly all of your favorite TV shows. From dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more, there is no network that works harder to serve television fans. But we need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more, because we have a lot, of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that is tailor-made for you, and you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And if you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because they're optional. You can turn them off. So hit that subscribe button now for this channel and check out our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments. We'll thank you on air. For now, thank you for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV Talk.
Thank you, Xia. And if you do subscribe to this channel, you will also see, as we mentioned, the Daredevil after show that is hosted by our friend Zach Wilson. Jesse Klein's on the panel, and Xia and myself also on the panel. And next week on that show, we'll be joined by Jay Ali, who's the actor who plays Agent Nadeem. So he will be on the Daredevil after show. I don't feel good about saying, like, hey, do you want to hang out for extra 2 hours and also be on Marvel TV Weekly? I think we'll just let him be on the day. Yeah, I know. I was like, I'd be like, hey, I do this other show. You should come back. Hey, when do you do it? 2 hours from now.
2 hours?
Actually, at that point, it'd be like an hour. So anyway, so that'll be exciting. So you can find that Sundays at 8 Pacific, and then Xia goes right into Doctor Who and then into this. So Xia is doing like a marathon of 3 straight shows.
This is my third one.
In any case, so
seem loopy, that's
I
why.
want to start with talking about Daredevil episodes 1 through 8. I know we talked a little bit about it last week, but we were very hot under the collar last week, Amy, about Luke Cage. And still very upsetting. But I do really want to dive into this with the 34 minutes remaining. And as you can see in the thumbnail graphic for this episode, the thing that I personally am so excited about, what I'm getting, just everything about it is great, is the return of Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin. There's so much else to talk about, but I really feel like that's where we need to start, because everything in this show ties back to the Kingpin, Wilson Fisk. And very rarely is the term Kingpin thrown around on this show. He's always Wilson Fisk. But he is the Kingpin. That's who he is. And for those watching on YouTube, you have the great side-by-side comparison there of just how exciting it is to see him in the white suit. Amy, let's start with Wilson Fisk this season and just what it's like to have him looming, and I do mean looming, over everything.
Yeah. It's absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. I love it so much. I think he was even one of my favorite characters last season and this season.
And in the second season, he was barely in it. And obviously, he was a huge part. He's the protagonist or the antagonist in season 1.
And I think they really did a good job even making his character darker. Than before. I mean, this whole
he's in a much worse place than he was. At the beginning of season 1, of course, but even at the end of season 1, I mean, he's not in a great place there, but he's in a really bad place as this season starts. And even though he's living in a fancy hotel, it gets worse and worse. And but we're going to talk about, like I said in the intro, all the spoilers through episode 8. So if you're in the chat, keep your episodes 9 through 13 spoilers to yourself. But if you're checking out this show and maybe you're not that far along, you might want to avert your ears for the rest of the show, because we are going to talk about some of the spoilers as we go through. Xia, your thoughts on Wilson Fisk in this season of Daredevil?
He is very, very sneaky in this season, which I love. I love that they do that. They really start you off thinking that he's kind of in this hurt place, and he's obviously very worried about Vanessa. And they really, really had me tricked into thinking that he was actually shanked and he might be burning bridges. When in reality, he's 1,000, as Foggy said, and you said on the Daredevil after show, that he's 5 steps ahead of everyone, and he really is. And as he slowly comes out and is playing his hand, and you see the subtle manipulations that he plays on everyone around him, and you realize, oh my gosh, no, he is still the Kingpin, and he is minorly inconvenienced, makes him all the more terrifying. And they do a fantastic job of slowly letting that unfold.
And Vincent D'Onofrio is, great in anything I've ever seen him in, but he's so amazing. It's like it's like, yeah, he's great. Going all the way back to Full Metal Jacket, I've seen him always be great. But he is just so fantastic. I love that they've figured out all these ways, these extra ways to have him on screen when he really doesn't need to be. Talking to Matt as sort of, the really well-dressed devil on his shoulder, giving him a commentary on his life. And the recreation of Agent Poindexter's childhood and earlier life experiences. The fact that he's just standing there, as I said a moment ago, looming over everything. It's just so powerful. And as I said, I love the white suit, but when having him in the white suit, just looming over everything, I was afraid when Matt was talking to him. I'm like, that's really going to take away from when they finally do interact face to face. But through 8 episodes, it still hasn't happened. And I'm just like, no, it's more Wilson Fisk. And I am definitely on board with that. So in any case, I feel like it's just interesting. These are the sort of things that make me really nervous because you're like, oh man, everything you try to do is going to go wrong because he's, like Foggy said, 5 moves ahead. So it makes me a little anxious. So it helps that for the after show that I'll only watch 4 episodes at a time. But now I can watch episodes 9 through 12, maybe even tonight when I get home at 11:30. No, because I have 2 small children, but I want to.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow in the afternoon, probably. Yeah. So, but I want to obviously talk about Matt, where Matt is as the season starts. And when the season starts, he's not Matt. He's just Daredevil. Talk a little bit about Matt's journey through these first 8 episodes, Xia.
Ooh, okay. I love the way they did this. I'm finding it hard to find fault in any of these episodes, which is a good thing. They've just done such a great job in this season so far. I like that you have him questioning not his faith, because he still very much believes in God, but he's just questioning his relationship with God and who God really is. He's not seeing him as necessarily this good figure in his life anymore. And I like that they start with that. I really, really like that he also just jumps right in. We don't see there's a little bit of a pity party there, but it's just the right amount. And right as you're like, okay, Matt, get it together. He gets it together and goes out, even though he's still being very reckless.
And he definitely goes out way before he should.
Yes, he does.
When he's still got the ringing in the ear, like when he has to do this snapping thing to try and let me make my powers work.
Yeah.
And there's also just that moment where, he roughs up the guys in the dry cleaning van and he basically tells them to kill him. It's just interesting that he's in that place. Amy, what do you think as you sort of watch Matt and his story unfold throughout these first 8 episodes of season 3?
Well, I just think, we all knew it was going to be dark, but the way it started with him feeling like that and almost making it feel like there was going to be no more Matt was so intense. And then the moments where he starts, really reaching out to people like Foggy and then eventually Karen, you're like, yeah, but you don't understand. You went through a lot of stuff, but so did they. And so he's trying to protect them in a way, but I feel like he's blinded. That's
nice, Amy.
Whoa, he is just blinded by all of his, all of his experiences, all of the past, everything that he's been through. And I think that really changes everything that we've seen with Daredevil. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and it's just this need to be Daredevil, but also the responsibility. We often reference on this show Peter Parker's realization that with great power comes great responsibility, and it's like you're able to do all this stuff. Think about all the good you can make, and at some point he should come to realize, think of all the good you can do as Matt Murdock as well. But he is certainly not at that point, even through these 8 episodes. He's very begrudgingly appearing as Matt Murdock when he thinks it might help the situation, which we'll get to in a moment. But he thought wrong. And I think it's interesting that he's dressed in the original outfit, the black outfit with the mask on. And I think it's just such a rich story that we're getting, all these details about Matt, and like Xia referenced, his faith and just what an important part of his life it is. And we also get Sister Maggie, who is yet another person from his life who is just a huge ball breaker and just always just so matter of fact.
I love
but
her.
oh no, she is great.
Yes.
But it's like you think about the flashbacks to his dad, and you especially think about Stick, who is basically like the only real father figure in his life. I mean, the father in the show is. Well, he's the only person who's nice to him. I'll say that. I mean,
Yes.
until he meets Foggy and all that. But I mean, as a child, that's the only. Stick is certainly not a fatherly figure, but he's obviously gotten tremendous amount of knowledge from Stick in his life. What were you going to say?
I forgot.
Good.
He was neither warm nor calm. I
Yeah.
think that was kind of where I was going with that. Yeah.
So I think that it's. I don't know. I like the character of Daredevil so much, and I think Charlie Cox does such a great job. And one of the things that we talked about on the Daredevil After Show in the first episode is that the fight sequences have always been good on this show. And they are just so much better now. They're just so much more involved. You just figure he's got a little bit more experience of it. Everybody's very critical on the fight sequences in the first season of Iron Fist, but they're like, oh, they're better in season 2. These started out good, and now they're amazing. The sequence when he... Matt, why did you break into a prison? But anyway...
As Foggy.
Yeah. Why'd you,
As Foggy.
Yeah, let's lift Foggy's wallet and break into a prison. But... then when he has to fight his way out, I mean, it was just, I don't know. I feel like that's right up your alley, Amy, that sequence. Yeah.
Yes. People told me about it beforehand. They're like,
I don't like these people who are telling you about things.
They were just like, oh my gosh, episode 4. And I was like, oh, okay, what? What's going to happen? And so then it started happening, and then I was like, wait a second. This is it. This is the moment. This is all right. And then when it's happening, you're just kind of like drooling all over.
Yeah.
Whatever. And after that scene ends, you're like, holy crap, that's so freaking good. Like, that is the epitome of awesomeness that Netflix can deliver. Netflix Marvel can deliver. And really, honestly, one of the best things I've seen ever in any kind of entertainment thing ever. Like,
yeah, I mean, and
kind of liked it. It's whatever.
That's basically what I talked about from an acting and writing performance from season 2 Daredevil. The scene in the graveyard with Frank Castle and Daredevil is just like, that's like the best thing I've seen in years. Anywhere, movies, TV, it doesn't matter. And these fight sequences are so great. And, lends itself to the argument that, maybe Netflix is tired of spending so much money on these shows because they look so good. Xia, what are your thoughts as you're watching the sequence of Matt literally punching his way out of the prison that he went to?
Oh, that was amazing. It was up there for me with the first hallway scene where he throws a microwave and hits a guy in the head through a door. That was amazing. This was right up there with that for me. And what I love so much about this, too, is Charlie Cox. Oh, my God. He's so fantastic. Just the desperation that he added to that fight sequence. It wasn't just, and I think we talked about this also on Daredevil.
Sure.
It wasn't just a technical fight. It was so much of just what can I do in this situation. And he was injected with whatever that was and the heavy breathing.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. It just brought you into the fight sequence that much more.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Well, and you end that whole sequence feeling just like him because you're like, I haven't blinked this whole time.
Yeah.
And you're exhausted.
And you're like holding your breath. You're
Yes.
like, okay.
I watched the first 4 episodes on my flight back from New York. So I'm sitting in the airplane, and for those watching on YouTube, it was indeed on a screen this size. I then rewatched the fight sequence on the big screen on the TV before we talked about it for Daredevil. But it was no less great. It was just small. And I was just like, just, no, I'm not going to stand up so you can go to the bathroom. Of course I did. But I was just like, how dare you? I am trying to watch my friend Matt get out of a really bad situation, okay? But yeah, it was such an intense way to just be like, huddled over my screen of like, this is so great. Oh my God, I only downloaded 5 episodes. I didn't even get to the 5th one that night. But anyway, so... It was just so great. And as the season has unfolded, I had a criticism from that episode when we talked about it on the Daredevil After Show, which was, come on, Fisk is under house arrest and he's able to monitor all this and interact with Daredevil. But then you later get like, oh, he's got a bunker. Like, he's basically got like a bat cave, where he's under house arrest.
Which explains why he bought it.
Yes.
And now we know and it makes perfect sense.
All of it makes sense. And I was like, okay, I get it now. And it wasn't like a huge criticism because I'm like, look, I still thought it was great. I was just like, really? He's going to be able to talk to him? Yeah. And I love watching the suspicion that Wilson Fisk has, like, somehow I think this blind guy might be Daredevil. No, that's crazy. There's no... And then when things happen, he's like... You fight very well for a blind man, you know what I mean? And just sort of the realization and, really not getting it confirmed until
Karen.
What about his secret life? And just that look on her face. He's like,
he knew.
Thank you.
Oh, that is so good.
Am I confusing this with the comic, or is he thinking that Matt isn't blind in the show as well?
I think he's questioning it. I don't quite think that they've delved into it.
They haven't. Okay.
Yeah, but obviously we get the flashback to when Matt tells Karen, right? And she is trying to figure out, like, so are you blind? Which is usually the question that you're going to ask. And it's like, no, I'm kind of like, it's kind of better than having your sight, just the way that he experienced the senses.
I like the way they did that, too, when he was with Agent Nadeem.
Yeah.
And Nadeem was like, and he was telling him all these things of like, he's here, he's there, he's coming, he's going to reload in this many shots. And he's like, how do you know all of this? But he doesn't question that he's blind. He's just, how?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
As any normal person would.
Of course,
ask,
We could all use a friend like Matt Murdock. Except actually no, because if you're his friend, he's going to say, forget about me. I'm never going to come back for you, Foggy. Tell Karen to screw off, too. I don't have time to do it myself.
Matt.
And I was just like, come on, don't be such a jerk. It's Foggy. So lovable.
I love Foggy so much.
And he's lost so much weight. He's like borderline handsome now. I'm just teasing you, Foggy. Oh, you didn't like that. Well,
I love Foggy. I love him.
Foggy Bear.
No matter what.
Okay, well, that's a little much.
That's what she calls
I know,
us.
I don't like it.
You know what? I'm with you on that, Amy. I'm sorry. It's too much for me. I'm like, Foggy Bear, really?
I think they're cute together.
He's Foggy.
I'm not saying they're not cute together. I'm just not a big fan of the pet name.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Foggy because I find his storyline to be fascinating this season so far. And, occasionally at times he might behave a little erratically and be a little bit impulsively. But then when you compare him to Karen, you're like, nope, he's very reserved and measured and reasons things out. And this whole idea of him running for district attorney is brilliant. And because he's like, I'm just trying to get the message out there. And I like sort of watching him the few times that we've seen him speak to rooms. You can see people like, this guy's not going to win, but maybe I should vote for him because what he's saying makes sense. And I like getting to see the deli and the family, I mean, delving into Foggy, I think is great. Xia, what have you thought of Foggy so far through these 8 episodes? 8/13ths of the season.
8/13ths.
It's a real fraction.
I don't remember fractions, but I'm going to take your word for it.
It's just an 8 with a little 13 underneath it. That's all.
That makes sense. Totally. I love Foggy. He's always been one of my favorite characters just because he's so good and loyal.
Yes.
Like there's just his heart is ridiculous. And how loyal he is to Matt is amazing to me. That he still is like, I'm not going to give up on Matt because everyone else has left him. So I'm not going to also leave him, even though he's being a very bad friend right now, which he even says.
And in addition to everything, he stole my wallet.
He stole his,
on top of all of that, he stole my wallet.
And then probably got Foggy into a lot of trouble by going into the prison and fight. Like, that was insane.
Yeah, I'm Foggy Nelson. Like, there's other ways to do that.
There is, exactly.
Matthew. What have you thought? What have you thought of Foggy Bear so far this season, Amy?
Oh, you know, my little Foggy Bear.
Little Foggy Bear.
gonna be a thing now.
I really love just how we've gotten to see him grow.
Yeah.
Even more into his character, but more into how BA he could be. You know, like, he is an underdog, but he knows his crap, and like, he knows how to appeal to people, you know, and he's trying to do the right thing. So I believe in good guys always, you know, being able to do the right thing and not getting killed. Hope.
Well, as far as we know.
Not getting killed, please.
Oh, not Foggy. No.
No.
We don't want Foggy to.
Wait, no, that like never entered my mind until I said.
Until just now. And see, that's the thing, is we don't know.
No.
Not Foggy.
It's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be fine. Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big supporter of Foggy, and I really like also that we've seen him kind of be like his own person, even though he has his annoying girlfriend. But
he loves her.
Yeah,
He
I'm
asked
glad
her
he's
to marry him.
But out of just like desperation, he was like, "Oh my gosh, I almost died. Hey, do you want to get married?"
I
mean,
actually
we've all-
really agree with her on that point.
We've all done that. We've all, just woken up in the morning after some, just an amazing night before and been like, hey, let's get married. What? No. See, and good for her, by the way, that she's like Foggy Bear.
agree.
Come on.
Also, like, wait for the ring.
And
you know?
as I
Yes,
said
like,
on the Daredevil after show, at the moment that he said we should get married, I'm like, oh no, she's going to die. Because you
What?
don't do that on a show where it's like, wait, he's going to marry her? And then you're like, oh, well, probably just to sort of up the stakes and make it so much worse when she
my
gets
gosh,
killed. And again,
yeah.
remember, I'm only saying that as a theory. I have no idea if that happens after episode 8. I've only seen through episode 8.
Nobody tell us.
But in that episode where it happened, I'm like, I thought she was going to die before the end of that episode, perhaps in the next scene. Because she was saying, like, all right, I got to go to work. And I'm like, oh, no. It's like, what's going to blow up when she goes to work? The cab? Is it going to be the building she works in?
Hit by a car.
All of the above. Hit by a car with a bomb inside of it.
And then she blows up.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Nice. Whoa.
Look.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't like her, but whoa.
I mean, I liked her a lot. I liked Marcy a lot less in past seasons, but I think for whatever reason they have a good dynamic, and she is the one who encouraged him to run for district attorney.
I think she
do like
truly
that.
loves him.
Yes.
And is supportive.
Yeah.
And she can be a little over dramatic at times where I'm
Sure.
like, oh, all right, calm down, woman. But but like it's I feel like they do have a nice relationship. It's cute.
Yeah, I want him to be happy.
Yeah.
So if that means being with Marcy, then fine.
You hear that, Foggy Bear? She wants you to be happy. Yeah, so
It's gonna be a thing.
it has to be a thing. I mean, anyway, so I think that it's very interesting where Foggy's at, and I think his figuring out what Fisk is up to is a very important part of the puzzle. But just every time he opens his mouth, you're calling more attention to yourself, Foggy. Like, you have that family you care about. You have Marcy, and this guy, as we saw, as we'll reference in a character we'll talk about in a couple minutes. Anything that gets in the way from his goal, it's like he doesn't care. Wilson Fisk will have anyone and everyone wiped out. We alluded to Karen, who I think those scenes are great. They're very well done, but they're the hardest to watch because you're just like, Karen, what are you doing?
Shut
up, Karen.
Karen! So everything she does, you're just like, I think you should be doing something different than this. It's like a horror movie. No, don't go in there.
Yeah.
And Xia and I, of course, we have a familiarity with Karen Page from the comic books, as we've often referenced on the show in the Born Again storyline in the comic books, which was from Daredevil 227 through 233. Karen Page is 1, a drug addict, 2, a porn star, and then at some point you find out she has AIDS. So,
Yeah.
it's rough.
She's really skinny and rough
Yeah, that's just a
looking.
triple threat. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so when she goes into whatever that crack house was, I'm like, no, no.
I had the same
Do
thought.
not do this to Karen.
Same thought.
She's better than that. And
She's really spiraling in this season, though.
I know. I
maybe.
know. There's still there's
know.
still time for her to go back to that crack house and be like, no, these are for me this time.
For me. Oh.
Yeah, because honestly, you know, if you want to get high, like, that house is obviously perfect. You know, why would you? If you're Karen, why would you just not wait until you go home to get high?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Everything Karen does, you feel for her. She's very conflicted. She's incredibly loyal to Matt. You know, and she still believes she's carrying the torch, not in like a romantic way, just the cause. She believes in Daredevil. She believes in what Matt does. She knows he's a good person, as infuriating as he is. And I like how some of that comes through. Like, you still owe me for the rent. You know?
Oh, yeah.
And just like, all right, great, you're back. So, you think I can afford this on a newspaper salary?
But she also loses her job for him.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So it's that, yeah.
I mean, which is interesting because in a superpowered world, there are many people who have information like that. And it's like, you just don't write about it. You can't write a story about who Daredevil is because then you don't have access to it. You're going to, ruin his life in so many ways. And I think that reaction from Ellison, her boss, was surprising, but it also was coming from a very emotional place.
He had just lost how many members of his staff?
A large percentage of his staff.
To.
Yeah. Well, and Xia, you made an observation about that when we talked about the way that the shooting went, when we talked about it on the Daredevil After Show.
Oh, my God.
Just sort of talk about that one moment that kind of best represents what happened.
The one that was the hardest for me, that literally almost brought me to tears, it was so painful, was when you see all of the cell phones of the deceased people, deceased workers, in the evidence bags, all ringing and getting text messages from loved ones asking if they're safe and asking if they're okay, and they're not answering because they're not safe and they're not okay.
And they will never answer those messages. It was so powerful,
so brutal,
and it was so well done from the perspective we're getting Karen looking at that.
Yes.
And she's like, look at what's happening right there. I'm still here. I shouldn't be here. Before we move on from this aspect of it, Amy, just sort of your overall thoughts on Karen this season through the first 8 episodes.
I think that having them all slightly, by all I mean like, Matt and Foggy and Karen, they're kind of just doing their own thing, and they think that they're doing the best thing that they can do themselves. I think that really just obviously is causing a lot of turmoil. And for Karen, she's not making these wise decisions that I feel like other people would have put her in check. Foggy tries to, but sometimes it's kind of too late when she's already there. And he's like, this is my worst case scenario. Bam, you're here.
Right.
I think she's just trying to do what's best for what she thinks. But unfortunately, she's not in that kind of position where she can make rational decisions. And she's putting a lot of people in danger.
Especially herself when she waltzes into Wilson Fisk's penthouse and is like, I'm going to make him angry. And not only am I going to make him angry, I'm going to confess that I murdered someone that he cared about.
Oh my gosh.
In front of cameras and microphones. And she's like, I'm going to whisper, but I killed him. I shot him 7 times. Okay, great. Hey, did you get that, FBI? Okay. So, you think anybody's going to check that tape at some point in the course of this series, this season?
See, what's crazy is, as much as I was like, stop it, Karen, what are you doing? You're so stupid. I was like, I love this so much.
I understand her plan to make him lose it, and yes, he was about to, but I do also agree that Foggy saved her life. Because, sure, if he kills Karen, he's definitely going to go back to jail. But at the same time, Karen, you're going to be dead.
Yes.
So what good does that do you?
And also think about what you're leaving Foggy and Matt to deal with.
Yeah.
How heartbroken they're going to be for losing you after everything else that they've lost. Don't do it.
Yeah. So obviously there'll be so much more to talk about Karen in the weeks ahead, I'm sure, and obviously Matt and Foggy Bear. But were you about to say something, Amy?
Yeah, well, I wanted to say that as much as, Christian Jackson feels the same way in the chat. As much as, I loved, the intensity of Karen and Wilson being together, I just want I want more of that. I want more scenes of them together because they were so like, and his face and her face and
and it's a reminder, something that I referenced earlier when we were talking, is that we still haven't gotten Matt and Wilson Fisk together in a room.
True.
And this is a great reminder of like, look what it can be like to be in a room with this guy. So I think it'll be fascinating to see how it plays out. But I do want to take a couple minutes to talk about some of the new characters that we got to meet. And Agent Poindexter, who... at this point we're saying all the theories and spoilers, but very obviously this guy is the character Bullseye, and there are some great touches from as soon as he's introduced, when he basically saves the motorcade, saves Wilson Fisk, saves Agent Nadeem from the Albanian, task force, the hit squad, whatever you want to call it, and just the way that he's able to, take people out with the ricochets and the bullets, and you're like, oh, there he is. And then with the flashback, he's got the little bullseye on his baseball hat. It's just like, oh, this is so great. But it's also just this, tortured person who has just really awful tendencies. I mean, he kills his coach because he took him out. By the way, you could have let him try to finish the game, and if he had it to do over again, he probably would. In any case, but then, as I told Xia earlier, man, when Matt's listening to the tape, and he says there was a box full of kittens, and I killed them with rocks just because I wanted to. I was like, nope, I am not Team Dex anymore.
No.
I felt for him up until that point.
Yep.
I understood that you get so angry that you hurt somebody. I didn't forgive him for it, but I was just like, nope, killing kittens, that is not cool. Dex. Yeah, thank you.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, in any case, I think that it's an amazing character. It's sort of a great path that he's taking to being Bullseye, and and the interaction with Julie is just super painful to sit through. Even when he's like, no, I wasn't into you. I was just like into you being a good person. And she's like, yeah, that still doesn't make it less creepy. You were still stalking me, dude.
Yeah.
And this is what I was referencing earlier, just the very offhanded, matter-of-fact way that you see on a screen that she gets killed. And like, it's very, there's nothing from Fisk. Obviously, he doesn't care that this girl got killed. This is like a means to an end, and that's what is important to him. And, setting Dex up to be the fake Daredevil.
What I also like, too, that I wanted to bring up that we didn't talk about on the Daredevil after show was that moment when he brings Dex in. And obviously we talked about Dex being like, this whole time you've had all this. He had the painters with the plastic there and ready.
Yeah.
If Dex went the other way, he could have just as easily been taken out.
Yeah, right.
Same people that killed Julie.
That's a great point. Yeah, he was ready to oh, Dex, that didn't work out. All right. So and it's an interesting character. You can feel for him. I can, even though I'm angry about the kittens, I can still feel that he's a product of his upbringing and lack thereof, in all honesty, which makes him so similar to Matt. But just him going into the New York Bulletin and just taking all those people out, it's just dude.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that I was glad that Agent Nadeem was sort of on the trail pretty quickly as these episodes moved along. But I wanted to give you a moment to talk about Dex, Amy.
Yeah, even just like his little origin story part of the season was very intense, because obviously, like, not knowing his whole backstory, I was like, what's the deal with this guy? I know he has issues, duh, but it's like, what exactly made him go bad, or even worse than bad, So yeah, I like that we got a backstory. I think that the whole attack on the New York Bulletin was super intense, and I was just kind of like in shock the whole time that was happening. So yeah, I'm terrified of him.
He's very scary.
As you should be, yeah, because he's, and just like as these episodes go along, it's just little things like, he has to adjust the cups and then the picture like slides on the wall and he has to reopen the door and fix it. And just, you get to see just how intense and how he needs that North Star. And Julie was like the only good person in his life, even though she wasn't in his life. And as soon as she was in his life, well, Wilson Fisk took care of that. So the one final thing I want to talk about is indeed Agent Nadeem. And if you didn't hear me say earlier, Jay Ali, the actor who plays Agent Nadeem, will be our guest on the Daredevil After Show next Sunday at 8 Pacific. And if you can't watch live, you can check the archive version just like you can for this show. I think it was good, like the way he was introduced. I was thinking, I'm like, wait, this guy's going to be Bullseye? Because I knew Bullseye was in this season.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? This guy? And then I'm like, okay, no, it's not him. And that's interesting. And I found him to be sort of a very compelling character, as his story has sort of, he's on the rise and it like helps his career that he's able to bring the Kingpin. But even he realizes like, okay, yeah, this guy's definitely playing us, and he just needs to figure out what to do about it. You can't act right away. You don't just storm in there. You got to think about what to do. And I'm glad to see, at least through 8 episodes, him working closely with Matt. How do you feel about that, Xia?
That was one, and I know I mentioned this also in the Daredevil After Show. That was one of my favorite parts. I loved that they're finally working together because you could see that Agent Nadeem he's a very good man. And he is always constantly trying to do the right thing, even though he definitely stumbles as he's going along, because it's hard to know what the right thing is in different situations. So it was actually, to me, very similar to Matt. And I like seeing them in that way. And I like seeing them work together. And I also just like to see, I don't know. I like teams.
Hey, that's why I love Power Man and Iron Fist.
Yeah.
I love me some teams. So, Amy, if you take a quick moment and give your thoughts on Agent Nadeem and how we've seen him throughout the course of these episodes.
Yeah, I think that they did a really good job introducing this character. I think they've really, and especially showing him with his family. It's just like, I'm a sucker
and the problems
for
with the family, just because he's not around, all the things you'd expect, sure.
Exactly. I think it's handled much better than in The Gift that we've seen. So I appreciate that. And I think that, I think he's super diverse. I'm still trying to, really understand, where his character is going to go.
And I can't wait to see it.
Slightly worried. Yeah.
And then we are indeed out of time. But before we go, we also have an important message from Amy Cassandra Martinez that she wanted to share with the audience here on Marvel TV Weekly.
You're going to let me do that? Okay. All right. Well,
of course I'm going to let you do it. I told you I would.
Yeah. Well, so I'm not... Okay, how do I say this? This is my last show with
as a regular weekly contributor.
Yes, because
when schedule permits, when you can visit, we'll certainly have you by.
It's like a special little thing.
I'm just gonna be randomly texting you all the time now, Amy, about TV shows and be like, so hey, what did you think of this?
Oh my gosh, yeah, and it's been so much fun to talk about all things Marvel TV and just Marvel in general. Yeah, it's been really great. I think we've been through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. together.
Yeah, all 110 episodes.
Yeah, Legion, The Gifted that we're going through right now, and of course all the Marvel TV shows. So there's so much goodness coming from Marvel.
But of course, people who want to see you speaking more about Marvel, where do they find that?
Yeah, you guys can watch Marvel Movie News on Popcorn Talk. It's at 2 p.m. as of right now on Tuesdays, Pacific Standard Time. As of right now, it could change a little bit. There's a lot of changes going on with that show, so just stay tuned to that. Yeah.
But since we're in the promotion business, you can also follow Amy. Where do you find you?
You guys can follow me on all social media at Amy Cassandra MTZ. I do other shows here on AfterBuzz, more shows on Popcorn Talk, and then Clever and Geek Bomb and my YouTube channel. So just follow me. That's a lot.
And Xia, where do people find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Xia_land. It's XIA_land, and also on a lot of shows here too. Definitely a lot of Marvel stuff.
Sunday nights is your night here.
Sunday nights are my nights, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Daredevil After Show, Doctor Who, and then us. Yeah.
And then also the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina is coming
Oh, I didn't realize you were
Oh
doing
my
that
God,
show.
you're doing that?
Yeah, we don't know when yet, and I'm announcing this before I have a time, but I'm really,
so
really,
just
really
stay tuned.
excited about
Yeah.
it. So just stay tuned.
I'm so excited.
And of course, both of these ladies are past guests of the Blackcast, my own personal podcast, which earlier today we had our 300th episode. And if you want to catch a link to that from a studio that looks suspiciously like this one, you can find it on my Twitter at ChristianDMZ. I'm also on Instagram, and I have a bunch of shows here. But I'll be back here next Sunday for the Daredevil After Show at 8 o'clock and Marvel TV Weekly at 10. And of course, in the booth, our friend, our colleague, our ally, our confidant. Did I ever tell you you're my hero? Anthony at Tony B, Tony _. In the booth. You can follow him, and please do. And Tony, you haven't said anything the whole show.
I've had nothing to say.
Because you didn't watch Daredevil.
Yeah.
Did you like the new Halloween movie?
And no, it was all right.
Yeah, it was exactly. It was just all right.
What?
The new Halloween.
You think that too?
Yeah, because it's just all right.
just all
It's
right.
not bad.
You know
it's
what?
not bad.
No, I'm leaving now. What in the
You're
world?
leaving anyway, so
I know,
yeah.
but I was going to leave like a few minutes earlier just to make a statement.
just to storm out,
Just like,
to
let it
so that
happen.
everyone in the chat would leave.
Well, I haven't seen it. So
All
now I
right. Well,
haven't
we'll
really
talk.
watched it.
We'll talk about
Okay,
all
then.
that and more. We won't really talk that much about Halloween, but it came up on Blackcast 300, so whatever. Worked back to my plug. But we'll be back here on Sunday. So thanks so much to everyone. Thanks to Amy for all of your service
Of
and
course.
being such a
Thank you,
huge
guys.
part of the show. But also thank you for being a friend, and thanks for being here tonight. And thanks to Xia,
That's
and thanks to everybody in the chat. We will see you next Sunday. Until then, Excelsior!
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.